All right.
Hi guys, it's Astrid Mueller again, brand designer, web designer, and passionate about helping Girl Power Ventures succeed. I got another super exciting expert interview for everybody, and I'm gonna talk about marketing with an expert on branding and marketing. I have Sue Kirchner with me here today. She's from Brand Strong Marketing, and she's an expert in building brands stronger and healthy and also in marketing. So she brings in a whole background of how to use blogging, speaking, social media to tell your brand story. And we've actually worked together before, and she's super savvy and awesome. And today, well, welcome, Sue, before I keep talking. Welcome. Nice to have you.
Thank you, Astrid. It's great to be here.
Yay. Do you want to say a little bit more from your perspective, like what you do and for whom, to describe it a little bit better than I did?
Sure, sure. Although you did a great job. But yeah, what I do, I started Brand Strong Marketing because I wanted to help small businesses really build a stronger brand, a healthier brand,
Hmm.
and to be able to tell their story more effectively so that they can attract more clients.
Hmm.
And so, although I've got a strong background in brand strategy and helping companies figure out how are they distinct, what do they stand for, who their target market is, I spend a lot of time with my clients helping them just tell their story
Yeah.
effectively, and especially online, since
Hmm.
everyone wants to attract more customers, and especially more businesses. When you have a limited sales force, you
Yep.
can only be out there either networking or selling so many hours a day. It's important to have a strong online presence so
Yep.
that you can actually attract customers and bring them to you. So
Yes.
that's what I help clients to do.
That's fantastic. Thank you for elaborating on that. And I'm really excited to zoom in on a really very useful startup topic with you, about how to inexpensively conduct market research to validate your business idea just before you get going. Can you give me a little bit of feedback? You have some background here. Like, what inspired you to suggest that topic?
What inspired me to suggest that topic was when I started my previous business, not this brand strong marketing, but I actually started an e-commerce store. It's probably about 10 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and it was back when everyone was jumping online, and oh, you could sell anything online, and a great business model. And I was trying to do something where my children were young, and I wanted to be able to work from home, and I wanted to take all of the branding and marketing experience that I had accumulated and build my own brand, see if I could do that. So I started this concept for an e-commerce store.
Mm-hmm.
It was called Chocolate Cake Club, and although we weren't selling chocolate cake, what I was trying to do was to create a site that would sell items that would allow you to have fun with your kids. So
Mm-hmm.
whether it was games or toys or cooking sets or scrapbooking that you could do with your children, it was something that you could have a fun experience with your child or grandchild, and it would feel like you were eating chocolate cake,
Yeah.
like you were happy, surrounded by family, indulged, that kind of thing. So, but what I needed to do when I started was I needed to validate the concept. So
Mm-hmm.
before I was going to sink a ton of money into building the brand, creating a
Right.
logo, buying inventory, setting up the e-commerce site, I needed to know that this was a viable
Mm-hmm.
business idea.
Mm-hmm.
But as a startup, of course, you don't have a ton of money,
Yeah.
and I didn't want to spend a lot on doing hiring a company to do market research. So I tried to figure out, building off of my background and what I had done for other clients,
Mm-hmm.
how could I either do some online research or conduct some focus groups that would
Mm-hmm.
cost me almost nothing but
Yeah.
give me the information that I needed.
That's
So
super cool.
it was important to me because, again, I think a lot of companies, or especially with a lot of women who are starting a business, you read all these books about, oh, if you have a passion, go ahead and build a
Right,
business,
right.
you'll be fulfilled. And it's pretty much, it's a myth. It's, yes, it's wonderful if you do have a passion for something and build a business, and people will support you with that. But a lot of times, I mean, a business is a business. You have to be selling something that people want.
You need
Um,
both, right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. Otherwise, as a startup company, if you're selling something that people don't know about, they've never
Yeah.
heard about,
Yeah.
or you need to educate them on why they need
Mm-hmm.
it,
Yeah.
it takes a very long time
Yes.
and a lot of
Yeah.
resources
Yeah.
to find customers.
Yep.
So you need to, I think it's really important, and I tell a lot of people that I talk to about entrepreneurship that somehow or other, when you're starting out, you have to figure out if you've got something people will buy right off the bat from you.
Yeah, that's
And
really
so
good.
market research is absolutely essential
Yeah.
for that. So,
That's awesome.
so what I did when I was starting the Chocolate Cake Club, the e-commerce company, was, again, I did online research. So I looked to see what kind of e-commerce stores were already out there selling the types of products I wanted to be selling, what was their price point, what was their brand, you know, so I did a lot of that online research, which took, you know, took a good month, but didn't cost me anything.
Yeah.
But the most important part was I conducted these focus groups with my ideal target market.
Oh, that's interesting. How did you do that?
Yeah. So how I did that was I sat down, I said, okay, I had 3 target markets I thought would buy product from me. So one was busy working moms who wanted something fun to do with their kids. The second was grandparents. And whether it was that they wanted to do something to the kids or they wanted to buy something for the family as a gift. And then the third category that I looked at was, I was like, you know, there's a lot of those really cool aunts out there who, you know, want to buy something for their nieces and nephews that's unique and different. And, you know, so I was trying to figure out, okay, well, who really is going to end up being my target market? So to conduct these focus groups, I had 2 objectives. One was I wanted to learn more about my target. So I created just a survey. Who are you? What do you like? How old are you? You know, do you have kids? Do you have grandkids? Just anything to find out more about them. Do you shop online? How often do you shop online? All of that kind of stuff. So I figured in my focus group, I would spend half the time doing that. But then the other half of the time was I wanted to see what they really would purchase. So I'm sure, Astrid, you've seen this as well, as people say one thing, but then they
and I've heard it a lot. Yes.
Yeah. So market research, a lot of times, it's great to do the surveys, but you also have to add that component of experiential research, where you see when push comes to shove and they have to actually spend $1, what do they do with it? You know,
and how much are they willing to pay and all that stuff, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So what I did was I created, in the focus group, I created a mock catalog. So, yeah, so I laid out and created a mock catalog. I pulled a bunch of different products that were typical of what I was thinking of selling.
Yeah.
I put them in there, I put a price in there, and basically the second half of the focus group, I asked people to go shopping and to circle things in the catalog to say, okay, what would you buy for yourself, especially if you're a busy working mom, or what would you buy as a gift? And I had different categories of products to see what they would like. And they were able to go shopping for me. And the research was absolutely invaluable because it changed the type of products that I actually ended up carrying in the store.
That's really great.
Yeah, so it was, my original idea was to sell almost half of my merchandise would be things that would help busy moms get organized.
Yeah.
File folders, family calendars, you know, anything that would help them get organized, so that they would have more time to have more fun with their kids. But what I found out when they were shopping and through the focus groups was they told me that, you know what, that's great and we will buy those products, but we'll only buy maybe once a year. We'll come in and we'll buy a calendar or we'll buy an organizer or something like that, but then we have no reason to come back because we've already got it. So they forced me to kind of look and say, you know what, a lot of my focus group said, we buy gifts 7 to 10 times a year for kids in our life, whether it's our kids, grandkids, nieces, nephews. You need to carry a lot more gift type products in order for us to keep coming back to your store. And that is the biggest thing I learned as well with that business was, if you spend a lot of energy and money and effort to get a customer, you have to have something that you can sell them and keep them coming back.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's
otherwise you spend all your time looking for new customers, and that's a lot harder and more expensive. So how do you, once you've got someone, how do you keep them and keep them coming back? So the gifts ended up working, you know, it helped me change my inventory and it was really important. But how I set the focus groups up to keep the cost down was I reached out to all of my friends and family and I said, can you get 10 to 15 women in a room in your house, I will come over, I will bring chocolate cake, I'll bring drinks, I'll bring all this stuff, but if you can get them in the room, can I conduct this focus group?
That is so
And
great.
it worked. I was able to do 8 focus groups of 10 to 15 women each within those 3 categories, and it was all just reaching out to my friends and family and saying, hey, could you pull some people together for me? And they did, and it was wonderful, and the cost was minimal.
That is so smart. I love that example. It's so smart, like with your own network even, and you didn't even have to reinvent the wheel or nothing. You had your own resources. I totally love it. And actually, I have a bad example of what I did, and I should have done what you're saying, just to give people like giving them an example. So one of my previous ventures was to do wedding stationery, but with a special twist. Like I'm illustrator, and I used to illustrate for fashion magazines and women magazines. So by serendipity, I did design elements for a wedding once in Switzerland, and I thought, oh, that's really cool. They love my illustrations, and we did all kinds of things like wedding cake topper, and so I built this business concept of doing sophisticated, elaborate, very personal, and very exclusive and very expensive illustrations that are like a keepsake and super special and whatnot. So I tried to get that business off the ground, and I did not really do a focus group. I just spoke with people here and there, and everybody liked the idea. But oh my gosh, it was so hard. Like one of the things that you said at first was, that it was difficult to explain, to sell. I think that was one of your points, right?
Yeah.
And it was not something that people needed by itself. It would have taken so much time for me to explain that, and I tried, I did photo shoots and all that. It was so much effort, and it just didn't grip. And also, I realized with my idea, it was hard for my selling people to sell it, because I was reaching out to wedding planners, and they were kind of my selling touch point to connect, but they already had stationery designers they usually worked with, and it was an easy sell because they had a portfolio and not very creative and complicated to sell. So that didn't work either. That wasn't an incentive either. So I should have totally done a focus group like that, or find a different channel where people are actually eager and asking, and then you grow the business. So I'm so glad we're discussing this. For other people, you can learn from me.
Yes, definitely learn from us. That's the best part of these shows that you put together. Yeah.
This is amazing. So do you have another case study, like something from one of your customers, maybe from another business where they did that, and what other ways are there to do startup kind of super low budget testing? Does anything else come to your mind?
Yeah, I have she wasn't actually a client, but she was a friend of mine. And she had a kind of a marketing business as well, that focused a lot more on email marketing. And this was a number of years ago, but she wanted to help clients figure out how to create email marketing campaigns and things like that. And she worked at a corporation, but she wanted to go off and be entrepreneurial and start her own business. So one of the things that she and I had talked about was, they said it's a lot easier to start a business or feel comfortable starting a business if you already have customers lined up.
Right.
Especially, so that works, for a service business, or whether it's a product business. If you know that someone is willing to buy from you right away, it's a lot easier to make that risk and to make that leap. So while she was still working at her corporate job, what she would do is she would take, again, people in her network out to lunch and to ask them questions. Just, are you happy with the marketing support that you get? What do you do for your email marketing campaigns? If someone could solve a problem for you, what would that be?
Nice.
And she did that with like 10 to 20 people within her network. And she basically came back and said, oh, this is perfect, because I know what the pain points are at which they're willing to switch from their existing marketing company to someone who can help them more. So by taking all that feedback, she then was able to say, okay, if she could go back to, say, 5 of the people that she interviewed, and she said, if I were to start my own company and offer this, would you hire me? And of the 5 she went to, 4 said yes. So then it was easy for her to then say, okay, I'm quitting my corporate job, I'm starting my business, these 4 people have agreed that they would be my first customers,
Oh my gosh,
basically.
that is so smart. I love it.
Yeah, and then but she knew exactly what they needed
Mm-hmm.
because she bothered to reach out to them and to really
Yeah.
try and understand what their pain was
Yeah, that is so
beforehand.
smart. And that's
So,
yeah, that's such smart selling too, right? It's the best conversation, like the modern type of selling. You start by asking questions and just learning really what people want, like you say. I love it. So
right. And
smart.
it was important. What I think she did really well was instead of just saying, "Hey, I'm opening an email marketing company,"
Right?
she sat down and said, "What are you frustrated about with your email marketing?"
I love that how she formulated that
Yeah,
too.
and then
Yes.
she came back and said, "Okay, I instead of saying, 'Hey, I'm opening an email marketing
Yeah.
company,' she went back to them instead and just said, 'I can solve that problem for you.'"
Nice. That is so great. I totally love it.
Yeah.
Everybody write that down because those are the best questions ever. Like I
Yes.
remember an interview I did with Darcy Howard earlier on. She asked that same question too. It's like define what problem you're solving and who you're solving it for. Whoever
Right.
watched that video or hasn't seen it yet, go watch it, and otherwise you may remember it. So yeah, it totally goes back to branding and to finding that core answer. That's
Yeah.
great. I love it. Thank you.
Yeah.
What would
Perfect.
you suggest? And maybe we'll do a quick brainstorm, depending whether you have an example or not. But what if somebody does not live in a big city, like remotely somehow? Like, what would you do? Well, one of your examples is great. Like, use your circle of people that
Hmm.
you have. Is there anything else that you can think of? Let's say if somebody has an audience that is not in your vicinity and you're not in touch with your potential customers, like how could you use
Right.
online tools to get pretty good feedback other than just a survey? Have you played with that?
Yeah, I mean, there's always communities and groups out there that you can
Mm-hmm.
participate in. So, I mean, I always encourage my customers to look at LinkedIn groups that are out
Mm-hmm.
there around a particular pain that their clients might
Nice.
be
Yeah.
having. So, I have one client who sells promotional products.
Mm-hmm.
So her target audience are event planners and trade
Mm-hmm.
show marketing people. So I helped her by going into LinkedIn. I said, let's find groups that attract that type of
Mm-hmm.
professional. And then you can start looking and seeing what kind of conversations or questions people are asking in these
Yes.
groups.
Oh yeah.
And
Right.
if you can then answer or ask them a further question to kind of clarify what they're looking for,
Mm-hmm.
it's a great way to get feedback.
Nice.
So, it's one of those things where you go into these groups, you see what they're talking about. You might be able to find the answer to your research
Yep.
questions without even asking a question. It may
Mm-hmm.
all be out there for you already that people have been talking about. Otherwise, start participating in the groups and then ask a question. Kind of
Yeah.
say, hey, I'm toying around with a business idea to
Yeah.
solve this problem.
Yeah.
Who would be interested in that? And what would you be looking for? And
Love it.
it's a different way to survey people
Mm-hmm.
if you
Yes.
don't have a contact. Another thing to do would be to reach out to another consultant or another company that sells to your target audience
Mm-hmm.
but doesn't offer what you do,
Mm-hmm.
and to reach out to them and say, hey, I would love to ask a question of your target audience. Could we work together
Mm-hmm.
to either create a survey or have a teleconference discussion?
Mm-hmm.
Or is there a way that I can provide value to your blog readers, your
Yeah.
audience, your community? And in exchange, I can ask them questions and get some kind of great feedback from them.
Nice. That's really
So that
cool. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
it's a good way to inexpensively reach out to a community that probably is ideal for your product or
Mm-hmm.
service.
Mm-hmm.
And by offering them a little bit of value, whatever that is, either sharing some information on how to do something or providing them even with a sample product if that's
Yeah.
what you're selling. But in exchange for that, then you get some good feedback on how to either, do some research or validate your
Mm-hmm.
idea.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I have an example for that. So if you guys are looking for companies that you could partner with on that, think about synergies, like what businesses could have good synergies. So for me, with my accessory line Possibility, for instance, I can really partner well with emerging designers or with fashion brands. And if they do, for instance, if they do a trunk show or a photo shoot or things like that, something where you are in touch with potential customers, obviously, but then you could kind of team up and see maybe like you could do a little event together and just provide samples and get test
Right.
feedback like that, right? Or
Right.
one thing that I did too was my jewelry line. I actually sold at street markets in New York last year. It was partially to sell, but also the biggest benefit for me was really to get some market intel and see what people liked and what they were drawn to, and what conversations kind of came from it. So yeah, I learned a lot from
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. There's another woman I know who started a company where she was selling accessories, handbags, jewelry,
Mhm.
all inexpensively through, and it was fair trade. So she
Mhm.
would source the product from Africa and Latin America and other third world countries, and then sell it here in the U.S. online as well as in person. And one of the smartest things I think she did was she went to a college campus
Yeah. Oh, right.
and got
Okay.
permission to kind of set up a table in the
Yeah.
college union,
Yeah.
basically, building with all of her products that were out there. And she did two things. One is she sold the product and tried to figure out what the right price point would be for
Mhm.
a 20-year-old woman who she thought was her target audience.
Mhm.
But the other thing she did was she asked women who were really interested and liked the product. She
Mhm.
said, "Would you be willing to sell this for me?"
Uh-huh. That's great.
Yeah, so she was able to not only get good research and feedback on what product they like and what they would be willing to pay for it,
Yeah.
but she also signed up a bunch of college kids who said, "Yeah, I'd be happy to try and sell
Oh.
this to my friends and family and stuff." And then obviously, they got a percentage of the sale and
Oh my gosh,
things.
I totally love this. This is super
Yeah,
smart.
yeah,
That is so cool. So basically, she did not only did market research, but also kind of tied in a sales concept by
that's
using building a crowd of like a tribe to help her
yeah,
sell.
a tribe of people who loved her product
Oh my
and were willing to
gosh.
sell it for her.
Oh,
Yeah,
I love that thinking. That always excites me. There's so many possibilities
yeah,
of doing things creatively and thinking outside of the box. I love it. That's so cool.
yeah.
I had another example too, is from my jewelry line. Also, I did tested different things last year. You know, first I did like trunk shows, and then I didn't have full success with them, and it's always kind of unreliable how many people come or whatever. But I did a different concept later in the year, which was inspired by the original Tupperware parties and Chloe and Isabel accessory line, where they have jewelry parties. So I played with that, and I did one here also locally at a hair salon, teaming up. You know, it's kind of like a synergy where it was her customers and friends and like my potential customers and whatnot. So I didn't have to pay anything for that. And then I set everything up kind of like a playroom. So well, everything that was like there was samples people could play with, and that was the
Yeah.
first thing I told them. So hey, you take anything, like try it on, play it, whatever. They would not have been the pieces that they would buy. It was just to look and wear. And I realized such a huge difference from just selling to testing something like that in a kind of a playful sort of concept, and kind of a
Right.
girlfriend party thing, because they actually started picking it up, and they were engaging with the pieces, and then I didn't even do selling. They just came to me. There's like, can I buy this? You know, so
Right.
it was so
Right.
much easier, and I saw what people liked and what they responded to, and yeah, I guess that's another example of doing something small where you get feedback with samples. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, every opportunity you have to talk to a potential customer,
Mhm.
view it as feedback and a chance to do some market research. Ask them
Yeah.
more about what they like, what they might want or need that you don't have available yet, and
Yep.
that's an idea that you could put in your back, the back burner that you might want to supply in the future and things like that. So,
Yeah, totally. Tell me your position, because you're a coach for marketing and you help companies with issues like that and challenges. At what
yeah.
point should companies, or can companies, come to you where it makes sense to hire you? Or like, are they usually more established companies who come with a particular budget and then they're like, here, make this happen? Or, or do
Right.
you also work with small startups who are grassroots and you do hourly consulting or something? Tell me a little bit
I
more.
do. I work with both. So, for some of the larger companies that I work with, that's because they want an outside opinion and they want someone to come in and do some of that work for them. So
Mm-hmm.
whether it's doing brand research
Yep.
or helping them write content for their blogs, or helping them with their setting up their social media profiles and starting to post for them. So larger companies sometimes just outsource to me and use me as that objective third-party resource. But I have a lot of startup and small, what I would call freelance consultant type business clients. So for them, they can hire me by the hour. So if you have a question that you need some help to do something, or you want to help, let's say, creating a blog editorial calendar to know what you're going to write about to help tell your story. You know, I certainly help on an hourly basis, but I also have been developing these workshops.
Yes, I know. What's this where we're kind of like working together in the future?
Which is where we started talking together. But, you know, I've got 3 topics of workshops around branding. What is your brand? How to build your brand. Then I've got 3 sets of workshops that I'm developing around blogging or content. How do you then tell your brand story? What should you say? How do you make it relevant to the client? And then the last 3 workshops in the series are all about social media. So, you know, you've got the content to tell your story. So now how do you engage and start attracting clients to help you out? And so I developed those for startups and small businesses who can't, you know, maybe necessarily afford to hire me as a project. But I put those together and say, I will show you how to do it yourself. So for that, you know, DIY crowd, provide them with some value. So, you know, they need branding just as much, if not more, than other companies. And it's, you know, whether you're just starting, or even if you've been in business for a number of years, but especially with startup and small companies, things change, right? So you may have started your business thinking that it was going to be one thing, but then you end up being something else because that's what the clients have purchased from you over a period of time. And I help them really kind of understand, all right, well, what is it that you do? Why do you do it? And how are you unique? And who's your target market? By helping walk through that, whether it's one of my workshops or whether it's just, you know, consultations either on the phone or in person, help nail that down so that they can start attracting the right customer and grow their business.
Yes, yes. And actually, I really love that we're working together on this too, and like for 2 reasons. Like one, for everybody who's watching this, I think it's a great inspiration that even people, when we do have similar kind of resources, like we're both doing branding, obviously, you know, it's still possible to work with people. And I just really love this mindset of like collaboration. Like we can only benefit. For instance, like Sue and I, like we're developing the seminar, like you kind of outlined, we're going to launch one of those in the near future together, and then we're still both doing this, and you know, we're not losing out. We learn so much from each other, and we're both winning by potentially getting a bigger audience and like increasing both of our knowledge by adding things. And it's just I love collaborating.
Yeah, it makes the product that we can produce so much stronger, because you know, I'm not a designer. My background is not visual. My background is more writing and strategy. And you've got strong writing and strategy as well, but you bring a lot more of that visual element to it, which is great, because that's not something that I, you know, am strong at. And so by working together, we can offer a better product to anyone who would potentially want to work with us or view our workshops. So
exactly. So you guys, when you're watching this and thinking about market research, it all goes back to networking and building your circle. And like, don't be afraid to reach out to people who are in your same industry as well. Like I just did an interview yesterday with another lady that I'll launch soon. the interview where we actually discussed an example of a customer who went out and reached out to different businesses, but in the same industry, and they ended up forming this group where they're all helping each other and they learn from each other. So that's another way of getting market intel. You just have to find people who are open and have the same mindset of positive collaboration. Not everybody has that mindset, but it can.
And like you said, don't be afraid to ask. What's the worst that's going to happen is they're going to say no. Exactly. But you're probably going to be super surprised on who is willing to help you and share ideas and collaborate.
Yes,
So
yes, totally.
yeah,
Oh, I
totally.
have another example too. Is that lady here from Kodiak, who I interviewed for my upcoming radio show. She did the same thing. She owns a canvas company here on the island, and she creates basically upholstery for boats, for businesses, and works with canvas, and she sews things. So she's kind of isolated here in the island, and she one day she just reached out to a sail company who creates sails for sailboats, and she
Okay.
just called up this person, and she's like, "Hey, can I pick your brain?" And that person, she said that at first she was like, she was a little like surprised, but she ended up being really helpful, and also they ended up working together. And she's going to go down there, actually do I think a workshop with them or something like that. So they formed a business relationship based on that, and it was totally not competitive minded, but collaborative minded. And if
Yeah,
you have that mindset, you can just only benefit and see possibilities everywhere very soon, right?
that's right.
Yeah. I love it. This was such great input, Sue. Let me see. I have one more question, and then I want to put the spotlight on you too. Do you have one tip, what you would say to startups to start out when they're starting out? Something, a resource or an inspiration or a book you can think of, something that would really help them that they should do?
I think, well, gosh, that's a loaded question because there's so many
I know,
things.
right?
Yeah, one of the biggest things that helped me though was reaching out to other people, whether it was finding a mentor
Yeah,
or whether it was finding a networking group of other
yeah.
startup entrepreneurial, in my case, it was a women's entrepreneur group,
Mm,
but reaching out to them just by having someone to bounce ideas off
yes.
of. It is so much easier than
Mm-hmm.
if you're trying to do it alone,
Yeah.
and not necessarily knowing what's the right question to ask
Mm-hmm.
or what should I work on first, and
Mm-hmm.
things like that. So I would definitely give the advice of if you can find someone who started their own business and ask them to mentor you or help you,
Yes.
or if not, look in your area for some kind of a startup entrepreneur group
Mm-hmm.
that meets, to be able to tap into that collective knowledge of
Mm-hmm.
people who know what you're going through,
Yeah.
who might be a little bit ahead of you on that entrepreneurial path, and they can tell you what worked and what didn't work.
Yep.
Or just as I said, someone to help hold you accountable and just give you feedback when you're feeling kind of lost and
Yes.
alone in your ideas and your thoughts.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
important to get that, as you said, collaboration or outside feedback on what you're
Mm-hmm.
doing.
I'm so glad you're saying that. I couldn't agree more. I wish I would have done that right from the get-go too. It's like it took me a while to really realize how beneficial it can be to just reach out and talk to people. And I am so remote here in Kodiak Island, Alaska. But now,
Yeah.
like this year, I really started to reach out a lot to other women entrepreneurs, and I'm doing all these synergy calls, and I'm meeting all these amazing people. And there's so many opportunities for collaboration and
Yeah.
synergies, and it's amazing. It's you just move so forward so much faster, and along the way you can find mentors, or little tips or whatever, or actual like long-term friendships. So you
Right.
never know where it leads. Yeah, thank you so much for bringing that up. I love it. So
Yeah.
spotlight on you, Sue. What exciting things are you working on these days, and where would you like to see yourself in the near future? What should we look out for coming from you?
Ah, well, I am in that typical entrepreneurial problem of spending so much time working on
Oh,
clients and their client work
problem
that it's
quote.
hard. Yeah, exactly. It's hard to focus on my own. So, but I'm definitely, as I mentioned earlier, I'm working on those workshops. I'm
Yeah.
really excited about them. My goal is to do them live
Mhm.
I'm based outside of Chicago. My goal is to do those live
Yep.
just so that I can get feedback from the
Nice.
participants to
Yeah.
see what works, what doesn't.
Mhm.
And then my goal is to have them be online next year
Oh,
so that I can
great.
reach
Yeah.
out and help more people, and to be able to do that on a national level, not just a local level. So
Yep.
I'm working on those workshops, and I would love 3 years from now to have something where startup networking groups and all that say, oh, you're starting up, you need to go through the brand strong marketing workshops because
Right.
that's going to
Right.
really help you define your brand and get your
Yeah.
story out
Yeah.
there. And
Awesome.
I want to be able to help companies that are just starting or maybe relaunching or just confused about where they are. I really want to help them grow. I love
Mhm.
entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
It's a passion of mine, and anything I can do to help that group succeed and see
Yeah.
their business idea come to fruition,
Yeah.
that's what gets me excited. So
That's super
yeah,
cool.
looking to hopefully 3 years from now have people say, yeah, you've got to take those brand strong marketing
Yeah,
workshops because
yeah,
they're awesome. So.
Looking forward to that. Who's your ideal dream customer, or who benefits most of working with you? Do you have a specific industry you're kind of like specializing in? And I know you told me some of that, but
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, in general, for some of the, I start anywhere from, as I said, with the do-it-yourself
mm-hmm.
programs. It's startups, it's freelance consultants,
Mm-hmm.
it's companies with maybe under 5 employees.
Yeah.
They don't have the market, or they don't have the budget to hire someone necessarily to help them, but they still need marketing help, and I've got tools and resources that
Mm-hmm.
they could definitely use. On the upper end, I also work with companies that are 5 to 10 million in size,
Yeah.
and that's where they will hire me or outsource to
Yep.
me to take over some of their marketing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of what I do is services
Yeah.
and B2B
Mm-hmm.
oriented type clients.
Yeah.
That's just naturally who I've developed in my
Mm-hmm.
network. But I have also done work with products, lifestyle brands,
Yeah.
and especially based on who I was targeting with my chocolate cake club business.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of contacts, ideas around targeting moms.
Yeah.
So how do you reach out to that mom market,
Good.
and
Cool.
really figure out what are her pain points, what are her needs, how
Yeah.
can you make her life easier?
Yeah.
So
That's great.
any company that's targeting the mom market, I've
Mm-hmm.
got a lot of information about how to do that.
Awesome. So whoever hears that, Sue Kirchner is your lady.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for doing this interview with me and for my readers. I can't wait to share it online. I can't wait to see where you're going with your brand in the future. Looking forward to seeing more. Okay,
Thank
have a
you.
great day, Sue. I'll talk to you soon. And you guys have a great, successful week. You'll hear more from both of us soon.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Astrid.